Hey, muito bem-vinda a mais uma aula pelo Inglês 365, seu curso de inglês 100% gratuito. Meu nome é André e na aula de hoje nós daremos continuidade na sequência que nós estamos fazendo. Essa é a aula de número 173 e essa é uma aula de listening. Depois dessa introdução, o resto da aula vai ser todo em inglês. Então, presta bastante atenção na instrução para você não ficar perdido depois do que nós vamos fazer. Nós estamos trabalhando com o mesmo texto há algumas aulas e o intuito é ganhar familiaridade com o vocabulário, ganhar conhecimento a partir da informação praticada ao longo dessa semana. Nós estamos falando sobre hotel. Na última aula nós tivemos um conteúdo relacionado à questão estrutural do idioma e hoje nós falaremos sobre a questão estrutural em si. Questão do áudio em si, a questão auditiva do inglês. Então, é uma aula de listening. Listening é aquela escuta. Então, listen significa escutar. So, listen, de escute. Na aula de hoje, nós iremos iniciar com uma leitura juntos e depois nós vamos conversar em inglês. Eu vou ir fazendo explicações sobre o próprio texto, mas tudo em inglês. Você já pode ver a minha tela. So, let's go. So, let's read one time. And in the second round, in the second time, I'm going to add some comments regarding the text. So, be ready. Checking in a guide to hotel vocabulary. Your holiday has begun. But before you can enjoy any time by the pool or on the beach, you will have to check in at your hotel. So be prepared for the questions you hear and those you might want to ask. You've probably booked before arriving, so you begin by telling the staff at reception that you have a reservation. They may ask to see your ID or perhaps booking confirmation. That could be the email you got that proves you booked the room. If you have paid part of the total price or a deposit to reserve the room, you might be asked if you would like to pay the balance or pay the rest when you arrive. Some hotels will tell you everything you possibly need to know, but in others, you have to ask the questions. Of course, many of us begin with, is there a password for the Wi-Fi? Or what time is breakfast? If you have to get up early the next day, you could ask for a wake-up call, which means the reception will call the phone in your room to wake you up. Some guests might like to see if they can get a better room by asking if any upgrades are available. You might have your eye on a room with a sea view or even a suite. And as they say, if you don't ask, you don't get. So ask for things. So this is the maybe fourth time we're reading it together. And we're just going to read one more time and I'm going to make some comments. For example, checking in. Be careful with the I sound in English. It's not like E, it's more like in. A guide to hotel vocabulary. So it's the word guide is something that will guide you, something that will lead you into a process or into something. So that's the definition of the word guide. Your holiday has begun. This has begun is a advanced grammar, which we did speak about in our last lesson, but it's very I won't say it's easy to use because it takes practice. You need to have the habit of doing it. But it is very helpful and it helps you to express yourself really well. So you need to use it as you're learning English. You will start to see that more often. But before you can enjoy any time by the pool or on the beach, you will have to check in at your hotel. One curiosity, the word pool, where we swim, is also the same word for a table pool, or that's a game with balls and a table where we play, so it's also called pool. The word beach is, sometimes people are afraid to say the word because they're afraid they will say, which is not a bad word, by the way. The word bitch is not a bad word. It means a female dog, but it's been used for many years in a negative way. So now it kind of does mean a bad word, but originally it was not supposed to be a bad word. And then it says, so be prepared. About the word beach and bitch is what I said about the I sound. It's not E, it is so double E or EA like this will sound like beach. So if you're not sure on how to say it, just say the word beach before you say the word beach, because here, beach, it's just a one letter difference. So it could help you to get more comfortable when saying beach, and so you don't say bitch. Okay? So be prepared for the questions you hear and those you might want to ask. One thing I want to talk about next lesson is the word here and here. I always like to make that point because it helps so much. I wish I've had someone helping me like I'm helping you guys with the specific pronunciation in the homophones or the words that have the same pronunciation. It helps so much. Sometimes we just get so confused on what to do. Like we get confused on what to do or what's the right pronunciation. And sometimes it's just literally the same. So it helps. Another curiosity, another thing that I might point out maybe later, maybe not, but the words questions or question and ask, they're kind of similar, but they're not. So it's interesting to mention, because question is the question itself, and ask is the action to make a question. So you can say, for example, can I ask you a question? It's a common English phrase. So be prepared for the questions you hear. It's saying when you arrive at the hotel, before you start enjoying the place, you need to check in, right? And be prepared for the questions you hear and those you might want to ask. So you have to be ready to answer the questions you hear, and you have to know what you need to ask. So practice your questions, the questions you want to ask at the hotel. By the way, last time we traveled, which was, I think in June this year, we went to a kind of like a resort in a city in Brazil. And when we got there, There was a weird thing because we had to wait for about maybe, I think we had to wait for about 3 or 4 hours before we could check in because the rooms were just filled with people. And I feel like that's kind of like the norm at this place. So people come in the morning and the rooms will be available at around 2 p.m. So we got there at like 9 or 10 a.m. and we had to wait until 2. So we had to wait before checking in. So what they say in the text, what they say is true. You get to the hotel, but before you can enjoy, you need to check in. You've probably booked before arriving, so you begin by telling the staff at reception that you have a reservation. So this is the first sentence you want to say. You will say, I have a reservation. You've probably booked means you've reserved, you've made a reservation. The word book also means to make a reservation. So you say, I have a reservation, and they may ask to see your ID or perhaps booking confirmation, which means they will ask to see your ID, your document. ID is your document to identify who you are. So it's a document, some sort of, I don't know, driver's license, literally your ID, your passport. It depends where you are. You got the proofs, you booked the room. So you need to give them a document. And that's the phrase you will probably hear. Booking confirmation. They might ask you, can I see your booking confirmation? Can I see your booking confirmation? Nice. Then it says, if you have paid part of the total price or a deposit to reserve the room, you might be asked if you would like to pay the balance or pay the rest when you arrive. Sometimes when you book a hotel or when you have a reservation, you don't need to pay everything up front. You can pay just what they call a deposit or part of the total price. So when you get there, when you arrive at the hotel, they will ask you to pay the balance, to pay the rest. You're going to pay the rest, pay the balance. Balance is what you need to pay. It's very personal, but I like to just do everything before getting there. So when I arrive at the hotel, I don't have to pay there. It's already paid. But that's personal. Some hotels will tell you everything you possibly need to know, but in others, you have to ask the questions. So sometimes you need to ask questions. Of course, many of us begin with the first question we ask is there a password for the Wi-Fi, or what time is breakfast? So two questions that are very important. We say, is there Wi-Fi and what time is breakfast? Another very common question we ask is, where is the restroom? When we're traveling, sometimes we go long hours into those travels, and sometimes we don't even have the chance to use the restroom properly. So when we arrive, maybe it's one of the first things we want to do. And then it says, if you have to get up early the next day, You could ask for a wake-up call. Wake-up call is you ask the reception to call you to wake you up. It's like an alarm. Very personal, again, not a thing I would do, but it's up to you. If you want to do it, do it. Some guests, some people might like to see if they can get a better room by asking if any upgrades are available. Usually, those upgrades are paid, right? So if you ask if upgrades are available, it might be understood that you want to pay for it. I don't know if necessarily it is a thing, but maybe. And if that's the case, if you want to ask for upgrades, you might just pay the difference, which is fine. And they say you might have your eye, which means you have your eye, you're watching for a room with a sea view, which means you can see the sea from the room, or even suite. And as they say, if you don't ask, you don't get. That's it. So this text was brought to you by English Daily News, as you know, and I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. Don't forget to practice, to listen, to repeat, to review. And if you have any questions, please let us know. We'll see you in the next one.